folks, I'm Keith Bowen. This is Hard Rock University, Backyard Hands-On Edition. Now I'm sitting in front of, all total between here and right over there, almost 1,400 pounds of Ryan's ore. Now Ryan has a dump. Again, I haven't been shown where it is or told much about it, which is fine. And he brought this material here just from the dump. Previous samples have run anywhere from 1/3 to 2/3 of an ounces per to the ton. Dump, run. Just dig in the dump. That's pretty interesting. Now, what I'm going to try and do with this material is a lot of different things. I'm going to be testing to see the recovery of this. I'm going to be testing my impact mill setup. I'm going to be testing the table. But what I'm interested in right now is where is the gold in this rock? There's a number of different possibilities where it may be concentrated or not. It will also give us ideas when we actually get to the mine itself, or when Ryan does, whatever, as to what specifically to look for. What were they mining? What does high grade look like? So we can presume, first of all, the highest grade is probably not in the dump. This is the equivalent of waste rock. That's pretty interesting when your waste rock runs a half an ounce to the ton. I'm liking this setup so far. But anyhow, so what I want to do right now is investigate what is associated with the gold. When I look at a rock from this area, can I have a good idea which is a good one, which is a bad one, just by looking at it? Now, it's never 100% reliable, but you can usually determine certain things which will say this is better than that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a number of different separations on this rock, grind them up, pan them out, get a good idea of which has the better gold, and then probably have some confirmation assays done. This is really nice rock. It has very little heavy minerals. The gold is relatively coarse for the hard rock I deal with. I mean, hell, it's up in some of it's 1/100th of an inch across. This is some big stuff. So it makes it pretty easy to work with. It's ideal for my testing. So let's see what we can do in terms of some simple separations to get an idea of where the gold is. Now, the first thing I'm doing is one of the simplest separations you can, which is simply screening. I'm using a 1/2 inch screen. I take some of the material, put it in the screen, run it through, and take some of the larger rocks out, throw the 1/2 inch plus in that bucket, and repeat. Now, I'm putting it in water that has soap in it so that I can clean them as I walk over here to the sorting table. I just go ahead and keep agitating it and put it on the sorting table. Take the rocks, which are now a lot cleaner than they were. Now I can look at these and get a much better idea of what they are. This I would call moderately mineralized quartz. This has some coloration to it that I don't know. It's kind of grayish color, so I'd call that a gray quartz. Then you start and put them in different piles. We also have some pretty clean quartz. And so I'm going to sort this into these different piles here So now I've pretty much sorted everything. That's the 1/2 inch plus there. The black cans are the 1/2 inch minus. And over here are the larger rocks that I screened and then washed. These little stockpiles here were from the rocks that appeared to be something besides quartz. And those were quartz. These have a rather fine grain texture. It's not what a geologist would call fine grained, but they actually scratch with a knife, not easily, but they do gouge like a dolomite limestone. They do not fizz when you put hydrochloric acid on it. So they are not limestone. Then you have these here, which are somewhat lighter in color. These, which are red. And these, again, somewhat different color. Okay, so there's everything all sorted out. You'll notice, for example, that the non-quartz minerals, I went through everything, all 1,400 pounds, and the quartz minerals I even put something back in with the dump run, just because I had too much of it. But this is a lot of quartz with very little wall rock for a dump. You know, very high ratio of quartz here. That's unusual. Usually you got like 50% wall rock or more. So that's interesting. Looks like it's a wide vein or structure. Now we have quartz here, and this isn't the best one. But right in here you can see a little bit of a coating, and I believe maybe this has been, I think the word is chloratized or whatever. Looks a little altered to me. Okay, these are greens and yellows, and they're kind of a coating. So separated those out. This is what I call the gray quartz. This is fairly light gray. I've actually seen some quartz that looked like this that ran 40 ounces to the ton before, a long time ago. But just, there's not a whole lot of mineralization, but the quartz itself is colored. Then we have what I'd call high mineralization quartz. And basically the quartz itself is primarily white, but there's a lot of vugs from sulfide mineralization. And this is the most mineralized. You can see this is not highly mineralized for what you would normally consider to be a mineralized quartz vein. Then there's less mineralized. And this is very, very subjective here. This is almost no mineralization here. This is all a spectrum between these three right here. And it's all by eye, by feel, so that's going to have more mineralization than that, which will have more than that. But any particular rock might be a crossover, because you're just kind of arbitrarily selecting somewhat of a boundary. What I'm trying to do here is determine, is the mineralization where the gold is? Okay? If these all come up real similar, which would not surprise me a lot, then there's really no sense in sorting the quartz. In the presumed wall rock samples, this white material that looks kind of like quartz, but which is softer than quartz, maybe altered or something, it has a fair amount of gold in it. Okay, this is what I call the white. And 0.15, 0.2 maybe. But this stuff that was gray, no joy on that. There's a little bit of gold there. That might even be cross-contamination for all I can tell. It's maybe a 0.01, 0.02, somewhere in there. But that's so small that, considering everything else I've been panning, it might just be cross-contamination. So, call that crap. When you're out in the field and you see that, we know that that's not something you want. Okay, here's the gold from the red non-quartz, and there's a little haze up here of real fine stuff, but not much at all. This is the gray quartz, and not very exciting. This stuff was, maybe 1/10 of an ounce to the ton at most. Had a few decent-sized chunks, but nothing exciting here. This is the yellow quartz, and it was the best of these 3 samples. It's running, I'm guessing, maybe 1/2 ounce to the ton or more. And it also was very easy to separate. When I was tapping it, the light material just raced away from that. And here's a rather unexpected result. Here's the almost unmineralized quartz. Very little gold, not wholly unexpected. The medium mineralized quartz, same. And the high mineralized quartz, almost identical. I mean, none of these things has any significant amount of gold in them. Now that means that we need to do a little more research here. Okay, so I'm going to screen and wash the 1/2 plus dump run. I've made a 1-inch screen here since I didn't have one. 1/4 inch here. And I'm going to wash it to get rid of the coating. There's some dirt here, and I don't want that to complicate the analysis. So, a little in there. As you can see, that's pretty clean. Dump that there. Keep going. Like that. And then when I'm done, then that is the 1/2 inch to 1 inch material. And let's finish the separation. Dry it, crush it, pan it. This is the 1 inch plus washed material from Ryan's ore, second batch, calling it Ryan 2. And looking at that, I'd give that maybe 1/10 of an ounce to the ton there. This, on the other hand, is the 1/2 to 1 inch material, and it's even less. Say a 0.05. This was, of course, the best, but there's very little of this. There's only about 1 kilogram left. So that is the fine material that washed off of the other, the coarser gravels. That's the basically 1/4 inch minus. And I'd give that 0.15, maybe a 0.2, but very little volume. There's about 1 kilogram there, about 15 kilograms there, 30 kilograms there. All in all, basically, from dump run, this is the grade of about half the material, the 1 inch plus. This is the grade of about 1/4 of the material, the 1 inch to ½ inch. Of course, a relatively small sample, only a couple hundred pounds. And then we'll take a look at the grade of the ½ inch minus that was just dry screened from that, which is also about 1/4 of the material. And you can see it's vastly richer. And my guess is you could probably get at least half the gold, maybe more, in the ½ inch minus material. If you screen that a little finer, then you might do even better. Now, haven't pulverized yet, but all of these are through the rolls crusher, so they're reasonably ground. Now, with the knowledge from that first set of wash screening results, I'm not going to do something else. Now, this is not very practical in the mining sense, but it is going to give us more information. I'm basically going to kind of sort through this and see if I can visually sort the material into basically low grade and high grade just by eye and see what's going to happen here. Because if I can do it here, then I could theoretically do it in the field. So I've taken the ½ inch, well actually the 1 inch plus washed material here, done a bit of a hand sort, and this stuff has kind of a chalky coating on it. That's what I call the yellow and white. This, on the other hand, has no real coating. It's angular and kind of translucent. So we're gonna crush these two up and see what we get. This is the gold from the coated quartz, and while it's not real exciting, it is a whole lot better than the gold from the clean quartz. There's just a few specks there. I mean, there's a couple chunks, not actually specks. They're bigger than that. But clearly, the sorting had quite an effect. So where does that leave us? Well, actually in a pretty good spot. By a simple screening, we can put roughly half the gold into 1/4 of the material. Assays will tell us a little more precision later. But that means you can go to the dump, you can screen it right there, only bring home 1/4 as much material, still have at least half the gold. It improves the economics of the separation because you have to run less material to still get, you know, a good amount of gold. We don't have to use the jaw crusher because ½ inch minus should fit directly into the impact mill. So that eliminates a stage, eliminates effort. You know, just that's a good thing. And the ½ inch plus, I'll go ahead and crush that through the jaw crusher on the keen. I'll open up the rolls. And then I'll split that down to a single bucket. Then I'll run that through the rolls to get a, and then split that for a assay sample to get a good idea of what we've got going there. I split all of the ½ inch minus down to get a sample. So that was easy enough to do. The material that is crap is pretty easy to identify. It's the translucent quartz that's lightly mineralized, crap. The gray fine textured wall rock looking stuff, crap, we can just throw those aside. When you get to the field, look at the mineralogy in place. You can tell crap, crap, good, good, like that. Be interesting to see what it looks like. Right now I've been focused mainly on the milling because that's what I need to do, and so that's what I've been doing. Later on, we'll worry about the mineralogy and the geology of the whole situation. I don't even know for sure how big the dump is. Typically a dump is going to be tens to hundreds of tons for a fairly small mine. The 1/2 inch plus will give me plenty of material to do testing and tuning. I've got some modifications I'm checking out. I'm also want to test a different kind of concentrator that Prospector Trip has come up with. The 1/2 inch plus is probably not profitable to run, but it's definitely good enough grade where it's easy to see what's happening. I can tell, you know, where the gold is going, etc. So it's great for testing, if not getting rich. Once I get everything tested and tuned, I can take that roughly 150 kilograms of 1/2 inch minus I've got, and rough guess should have 4 or 5 grams of silver in it, and we're just going to concentrate that into a good, fairly clean heavy mineral concentrate, and then just smelt it all down. Try and I think there may have been significant losses in that concentration with the panning technique. I just kind of like to see the powdered gold in a pile, but it's not necessarily the most efficient thing to do. So that's where we're at right now. I'll be making videos showing you all the different things we find out as we go along here. I'm feeling pretty good right now that we made a lot of progress. So that's where we're at. Happy prospecting and keep it safe out there.